welcome everyone to today's video. This is gonna be short and sweet. I'm gonna be making a two-sided embroidered collar to add to other shirts, dresses, whatever. We're gonna be using a couple pieces of cotton fabric, some interfacing, some ribbon, and some embroidery thread. The very first thing that I did was to create the template for my collar, which was a lot more challenging than I thought, and actually was a lot of trial and error. I cut out a basic shape and then ended up just kind of testing it on my neck to see how it would lay and making quite a few adjustments to make sure that it fit perfectly on me. Next, now that I have my template, I'm going to fold my piece of fabric in half. I made sure to iron it before I cut to make sure that everything is as perfect as possible. I'm going to use some pins and pin my template so I can cut it out. As I'm cutting, I'm making sure to leave a seam allowance of about 1/2 inch. And I am repeating the same exact process again with a white fabric and then with interfacing. The cool thing about making these collars is that there's obviously like endless things you can do with them. I thought reversible would be cool, but also I kind of ran out of fabric, to be honest, and so it was kind of like an unexpected little detour that I think turned out pretty good. So now that I have my 3 pieces of fabric, I am going to adhere the interfacing to the black fabric. So you want to make sure that the kind of bumpy side of the interfacing is facing towards the fabric, or just follow the directions on your interfacing, whatever it is, because I know some of them are look slightly different. After I've adhered it, I'm going to take my mechanical chalk pencil and start sketching out my embroidery freehand. So the first thing I'm doing is making these lines, guidelines for my seam allowance, because I want to have that factored in. I want the embroidery to go all the way to the edge as best as I can, and I'm just kind of freehanding what I think would look nice. I wanted a very simple design. I like the idea of it in black just so that it would be very, very minimal, but obviously you can go crazy. You can do whatever tickles your fancy. And then I had to endure the difficult task of trying to replicate to the second side as best as possible. You can of course do a template or whatever, but like I kind of don't mind imperfections. I think it just makes things charming, so that's just my style. Next, I am taking some of my embroidery thread. I am using, I think, 2 or 3 strands. I wanted the line to be decently thick, and then I'm just using a split stitch. It was nice that the fabric had the interfacing adhered to it. Because of the shape, I didn't really use a hoop, and that kind of made the fabric nice and sturdy and easier to embroider by hand without one. Now it's time to put everything together and get into the sewing machine. So I am lining up my fabric, making sure it's lined up as best I can, cutting ribbon, which I'm going to have it be attached from the inside of the collar. So this is basically going to be sewn inside out, and then I will flip it out. I am pinning the ribbon in place so that I don't accidentally sew over any other part of the ribbon and make a chaotic mess. I'm also making little guide markings with my pins to make sure that I do not close the entire arc when I am sewing, and I have a little bit open so that I can flip the collar inside out. And then it's pretty straightforward from here. I'm just sewing along the edges all the way around. After I'm done sewing, I am taking my scissors and I am trimming the excess. And now the tedious and not so fun task of reversing, especially with the needles. It was definitely kind of tricky, but I feel like it ended up working out all right. And next I am taking this to the ironing board to make sure that everything is nice and crisp and laying very flat. I am taking the little flap where I had left open to turn it inside out, and I'm going to iron that down so that I make sure that it's, again, nice and crisp with everything else. And then that gap I'm going to be closing up really easily with a ladder stitch, which is basically an invisible stitch that you won't be able to see from the outside. And here is the finished collar. This was a pretty short and sweet project, but now and again that's really refreshing to have just simple things to kind of be an outlet for your creativity. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe, hit like, and stick around because I have a lot more awesome things coming for you all. See you in my next video.